Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Happy October. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline, the fantasy football call-in show, putting you on the air with industry experts every week. I'm your host, Greg Scalera, here with my co-host, Sanchi Value, who is rocking out, vibing. Sanch, how you doing, man? Happy October.
Feeling good, man. Happy October. I love the fall. It's my favorite season.
Yeah, it feels like football. Finally, I got long sleeves on today.
Oh, yeah. Not a great Monday night game for my G-men, but hopefully they could get right tomorrow against your Bears. If they can't do it against them, then I might be sinking a little there.
You mean my 2-1 Bears? Mind you, put some respect on their names. They found a way.
My 2-1 G-men. What a game!
It's going to be a surprisingly interesting game. Albert chiming in from YouTube. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Albert. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you all for joining us today. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're right here with us on this Saturday afternoon, October 1st. Dude, today's my wedding anniversary, and here I am doing this with y'all. I could have been anywhere in the world. Thank you. And my wife is a gem. She got me tickets tomorrow to Bears versus Giants, which is theoretically a great gift. We'll see how the game goes. Might end up being an up-close reminder of the fact that Chicago's in for a rebuild this year, but time will tell.
Barkley and Herbert, play them both. Next question. For sure. Yeah, we'll get into some of that, but we got a good one today. We'll talk some Bengals versus Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. We'll talk your start-sit questions, trade questions, some rest of season values. Got some questions from the mailbag through fantasyfanline.com. Anyone who wants to call in and join us for the rest of the hour can do so at 618-FANLINE. We are a call-in show, and we're happy to talk with you on the air. If not, you can comment from wherever you're watching from. We're live right now on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and we are live on those platforms every Saturday the rest of the season. We feature expert guests on every show to take your calls, answer your questions. Like I said, call in the show 618-FANLINE while we're on the air, or leave a comment. Our shows are available on podcast platforms the day after we go live. So if you can't catch us on Saturdays, I hope you download us Sunday morning and help us help you make your game time decisions before 1 o'clock or whatever time it is wherever you live when football starts. For us, it's 1 o'clock because we're East Coast boys, and that's how we roll. So please subscribe to us wherever you're watching or listening to us right now. Leave a like on our stream. It helps a lot. We also have a Patreon if you want to support us, help pay some of the bills. All incoming support goes towards helping us, keep the lights on here. It pays for our phone line, our phone number, believe it or not, 618-FANLINE. Did not just happen to fall to us by coincidence. We got to pay some money for that. So it'll help us keep that number. It helps us pay for our website, keep the platform where we're doing this show running, the platform that distributes our podcast every week. We got some bills to pay, and you guys could help us over at Patreon, support an independent podcast, helping you guys do what you love every week. And somebody's gotta pay for Sanch's sweet Giants hats and wrestling T-shirts and things like that. So no, I'm just kidding. All expenses go to show expenses, and we really appreciate your support. And it really helps us know that you guys are listening and that we're helping you. We have one patron right now who's going to get a shout out every week, as long as he's our one our favorite listener and our biggest supporter, Al Wu. Give it up for Alan Wu, guys. He's the best.
Just take a moment. He is the best. He's he took home another win last week in the week that we're in together. He's sitting at 2-1 right now, same as the great Giants, the mighty Chicago Bears, and Alan Wu, the invincible. He's soon to be 3-1. He came out swinging this week with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, so he's sitting pretty. Al, if you're listening, congratulations preemptively on another win, unless something goes horribly wrong, which it does sometimes in fantasy football. So we'll see what happens. But Al, thank you, man. We appreciate you. If you want to join Al Wu and get shout outs every week on our show, you could do so over at patreon.com/fantasyfanline. And you'll also get some sweet perks like priority call-in codes and eventually a listener league with our hosts and guests once we get enough people. So join our community, help us out. We would appreciate it. Without further ado, we got a lot to talk about today, so I'm not going to spin our wheels any further here. I'm going to bring in today's special guest. We initially had a different advertised guest. He couldn't make it. Things happened, so you know what? We phoned a friend, and we brought in old reliable George Cruz to come in and help us out today as our expert guest. George, welcome back to the show. You were on a few weeks ago while I was out, so this is our first time here together.
Yes. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your vacation and happy anniversary. It's a pleasure
Thank you very much.
be back on with you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate having you on, George.
Sanchi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, George.
Yeah, so
we
George,
knew we could count on you.
We've known you for a long time, man. You're the defending champ in our league right now. You've been dominant for as long as we've played fantasy football together, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I do a lot of fantasy, so I love this.
All right, well, let's get into it then. Ian in New Jersey, right off the bat, wants to know, do you prefer Christian Kirk or Rashad Bateman rest of season? This is a great question because these two guys, I feel like there's a lot of questions about both of them right now on very opposite trajectories. Bateman had big expectations coming into the season. Christian Kirk had a big paycheck coming into the season, but I don't know that anyone really expected what we're getting out of him. I want to pull up some numbers. Christian Kirk is the wide receiver 6 right now, and it feels like it. Like, it's not like it was one big blow-up game. He's been consistently good. Yeah, 27 targets, 18 catches, 267 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, 3 games. Sanch, where do you land on this one?
As much as I love Bateman, what I'm seeing from Lawrence and Kirk, I'm probably leaning Kirk here. You can ask George. We're in a dynasty league together, and I dished a first-round pick for Christian Kirk because I have Trevor Lawrence, and I wanted that stack. And the way they've been playing, follow the money. I mean, Bateman's great too. Can I say both? Like, I mean, is this like a trade scenario? Like, someone...
I would assume so if they're asking for kind of a rest of season preference. Bateman's sitting
really
at wide
close.
receiver 21 right now with 16 targets, so much less than Kirk's 27.
Yeah.
8 catches, so 50% catch rate. Like, my concern, I think that they're both important pieces of good offenses, but Kirk's numbers right now feel more sustainable, just a higher volume. Bateman's a little more efficient in yards per catch, but like Kirk is scoring, he's catching a lot. He's definitely the choice in PPR. Bateman might be a better bet in standard, but George, what do you think?
I'm leaning Kirk all the way. His volume has been great. On top of that, Lawrence has been passing the ball way more, looks way better. Doug Peterson has really made his life a lot better over there in Jacksonville.
So we're buying it, right? We're buying the Jaguars. This is legit.
We are.
Show consensus. This is happening.
Not this weekend though. So if you ask me about this weekend, I like Bateman, but after that, big Eagles fan. Just for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's justifiable. They've had a good defense so far against opposing wide receivers.
Yeah, but I mean, 12 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets. I mean, he's doubled up Bateman 2 of the weeks on targets, and I think that continues. Honestly, I think he's their alpha, and Lawrence passes more. Lamar's pulling the ball down, taking stuff out of the offense. So
imagine that, a team paying their wide receiver like a 1 and using him like a 1. Sanch, you think the Giants know anything about that, or?
I don't want to talk about that.
All right,
with that being said about the matchup, I'm not afraid to play Kirk this week. The Eagles' offense is amazing. The Jags should be down in this game. Garbage time is still fantasy points. Where I'm from, I'm not, and I like ETN this week. I know it's all Robinson now, but we never got that game script where the Jags have been down surprisingly like that.
Not yet.
Like what? This is the week they're down, and this is the week ETN, gets the work we expected.
I saw they were the first team to win by 24 plus in back-to-back weeks after starting as an underdog in quite some time. So the Jaguars,
just like we all expected. Speaking of Christian Kirk, Albert's commenting from YouTube. He wants to know, pick 2 full PPR: Devontae Smith this week, Chris Olave catching the ball from Andy Dalton, I believe, and Christian Kirk. Sanch?
Well, after last week, there's no chance Devontae Smith's on my bench.
Yeah, you can't sit him.
Devontae Smith is definitely in. I love Olave. He's a stud, but you said Dalton's going to be the guy. We don't know what to expect with that, so I'm going to take the surefire volume with Lawrence to Kirk, and I'm probably rolling Devontae Smith and Kirk this week. But if you have 3 of those guys and you have Olave rest of season, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think Smith is the shoe-in. Olave and the Saints have the Vikings. I should also note no Michael Thomas. So Olave is the clear-cut top receiving option this week. George, does that change your mind at all? What do you think?
I love Olave. He's so smooth, but Andy Dalton, I just can't do it, honestly.
I don't trust him.
I see a scenario where if you're projected to lose big, maybe slide in Olave over Smith for me, just because I guess as a number one he'd have a little bit higher of a ceiling, so to speak. But Smith just went bonkers last week, so hard to sit him. I Smith and Kirk
we
for me.
We saw in week 1 that there is a pathway for it to be an AJ Brown day and Devontae Smith gets nothing, but I don't expect that to be the norm. I think that was more of it happened and they learned from it and they adjusted and they're not going to make that mistake again moving forward. So Smith is the lock for me. I think if you have all three of these guys, you're in good shape regardless. But I'm going to give the edge to Kirk just with the question marks under center in New Orleans. I mean, we could see some tricky packages with different people taking passes behind center and not always Andy Dalton and Taysom, and they have some other, I think, wide receivers who could throw the ball, have done so once or twice in their career. So I don't know what we're going to get out of New Orleans this week, and I try to avoid that kind of volatility in my life and in fantasy football on a regular basis. Give me some Christian Kirk on a hot streak, but congratulations for having all these guys as your options.
Not a bad problem to have.
No. A little side note on Olave, I think a lot of people are going to be down on him. So for any of you DFS folks out there, maybe a little sneaky guy to throw in there with low ownership, since everyone's going to be down on him for Dalton.
Yeah, would you look at him as like a GPP pick, the bigger cash tournaments? Yeah. Good tip. So if anyone has questions coming in from YouTube or from wherever you're watching, you can drop a comment. We will see them here just like Albert did, or pick up a phone call, us 618 Fanline. The phone line is open for the next 48 minutes or so. In the meantime, we'll keep it rolling with mailbag questions. Tony in Illinois. What's up, Tony? What's your opinion on how a mobile quarterback affects a running back? I feel like I've heard both positive and negative arguments for this correlation. Dude, you're right, because I think that you can make a case either way depending on the running back, but I want to hear what you guys have to say about this first. George, what do you think?
It's not really relevant to me. I'm not sure. I mean,
great, moving along. No.
No, a little bit scared with the Lamar Jacksons and Hurts pulling things out of the offense, but at the same time, these offenses are clicking. So, you want running backs in good situations and good offenses. That's what I look for more. I did notice something with this question, however. Rushing quarterbacks down. We're looking at just Jackson, just Hurts and Fields as really your primary rushes in the league right now.
About Daniel
Josh
Jones,
Allen's,
man.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, they've been running a little less than
Kyler.
we've seen historically. Yeah, no, this year they haven't really been too mobile. So
that's
just
true.
something I noticed there while I was looking into this. But overall, I don't like the running backs in these backfields in Baltimore and Philly, but I do love the Chicago backfield. So I don't know. I think I look more at the skill of the running back more than anything. I wouldn't look too much at the
For
QB.
sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at Philly, I think that there are other contributing factors to why we don't necessarily love Miles Sanders as a fantasy option besides just Jalen Hurts, because that's always kind of been a three-headed backfield plus Jalen Hurts. So, Sanch, do you think that's more of a general rule or is it specific to Philly?
It's situational, man. It's definitely situational. You can laugh at me all you want, but my boy Jones is a running quarterback, and no one's afraid to play Barkley when Jones could clearly rush one in if we weren't allergic to touchdowns. But that's a whole other story.
He looked great on the ground last week.
He was running for his life. Our O-line was horrible.
But you know what? He was picking up first downs, I think, more often with his feet than through the air last week. That's a dimension that he has in his game. Hasn't seemed to hurt Saquon though.
Exactly. So it's situational for me. Hurts and Sanders. I don't like it. I know Hurts would take away all those touchdowns. We all knew that. I'm not saying Sanders won't have a good year because so far he looks pretty good. But to me, it's situational. I don't want Dobbins or anyone in that Baltimore backfield because Lamar's the RB1. So it really all depends on the team. It depends what quarterback you're talking about. You can't just say, oh, they got a running quarterback, I'm afraid of their running back. You can't go in. You have to do your research. You have to watch them. You have to see what's going on.
I think it depends a lot on the running back and their style and the reasons that you like them, because mobile quarterbacks mean fewer carries for the running back, but they're theoretically more efficient with those carries because it's harder to sell out and commit to stopping the running back when the quarterback might sneak around the pile and run for 60 yards. You're going to get more vulture touchdowns. That's just the nature of the game with a guy like a Jalen Hurts on the goal line. Might just sneak one in, or a Josh Allen. And honestly, less check down passes. So if you're investing in a running back because of their passing volume and you expect them to do well in a PPR, I think that's where a mobile quarterback is going to hurt you, because they can escape that pass rush and they don't have to check down to get out of the situation, a la Ben Roethlisberger last year, right? Like, that's the big difference moving to a Mitch Trubisky. Like, you don't think of Mitch as a guy who's going to support you from a fantasy perspective with his legs, but he moves just enough where we saw the targets dip for Najee Harris this year, right? Like, that's been rough for him.
He can get in the end zone. Like, you're not going to be afraid if you have Leonard Fournette that Brady's going to rush all these TDs in, you know?
Hey, watch out for Brady. He does those sneaks.
That's true.
He's a vulture.
Look, I think that as long as you're investing in a running back with a high volume of carries and they don't rely on the passing game, then they're good. I mean, Mark Ingram 2019, right, with Lamar Jackson was incredible. James Conner last year with Kyler. Those two guys are, between the tackles, high volume of rushes. They were able to, I think, break bigger rushes because of the kind of the three-dimensional aspect of the running quarterback. But if Kyler, left and went to Carolina, it'd be bad for Christian McCaffrey's ceiling, because he's not going to be getting, 5-7 targets a game anymore, probably. Not that he is right now, but theoretically he should be.
I don't know. He was fine with Cam. He had some good years with Cam Newton.
He did, but I don't think that he was, the number one overall, getting all the goal line work. And Cam is also a little different because he's also more of a between the tackles runner. You don't get a lot of those at quarterback. True. Like, Cam ran like a fullback, so he vultured those touchdowns, but he wasn't necessarily getting out of the pocket and getting to the edge and getting down the sideline,
extending the play. The way they do.
So Tony, ultimately situational. I think that there's some positives, some negatives that come out of rushing quarterbacks for the running back. Depends on the situation, but it is not one size fits all. Good question. Tommy Donut seems to think that no one loves wide receivers more than George Cruz. Is that true? Right. In general, you're just a big wide receivers guy?
That's true.
Outside of your top 10 backs, and even it's like isolated down to 5, wide receivers score more. So, the point is to score more points. It doesn't matter to me where they come from.
I know that you're not afraid to take one in the first round. Are you also more of the mindset that if you have a flex spot in half or full PPR, it should be a receiver?
Oh, for sure. It should easily, almost like 90% of the time, it should be a receiver. Unless you get a guy like Herbert randomly pop up for you, a guy that's like a feature back when the incumbent goes down. I keep my high upside stashes. Then that's the only time I really look to pivot. But I do a lot of leagues with 2-3 flexes. That's where you see me really start fading running backs, and you'll see me hero running back, and I'll have 7 wide receivers where you're like, wow, which one of these guys do you bench?
I think that's the move. We are alike in that mindset. The league that we play together, I tried hero RB this year, and unfortunately my hero was Austin Eckler. So jury's still out, but speaking of Khalil Herbert, let's get into it. Christine in Massachusetts wants to know, if Montgomery is out this week, would you flex Khalil Herbert over Brandon Cooks in full PPR? I think my answer is absolutely, but George, what do you think?
Herbert is size, speed specimen. This kid, I love him. He's been going nuts every time he plays over 50%. I'm playing him over Cooks all day. I'm actually fading Houston offense as a whole. Davis Mills isn't it to me. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's his fault or the offense or the coaching.
And they got the Chargers this week.
Yeah. No, I'm good there. But before I looked into this, Khalil Herbert, he has 5 starts or 5 games where he plays over 50% snaps. 18 for 75, 19 for 97 with 2 catches, 15 yards, 18 for 100, 5 catches, 23 for 72 with 2 catches, 20 for 157, 2 more catches. I mean, this is what you're looking for in a bell cow. I'm playing him over a guy on one of the league's worst offenses any day. Love
Man,
Cooks.
I could listen to you read Herbert stats all day to me, but Sanch, what do you think? Are you slotting him in against your Giants this weekend, who are 28th in the league versus running backs at the moment?
100% play him against the Giants tomorrow. He's due for a monster. Don't overthink it. Montgomery's already ruled out. Play Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, this question came in earlier in the week when that was still up in the air. Herbert just put up over 30 PPR points last week against Houston. With Montgomery still in part of that game, he left a little early. Like you said, 20 rushes, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, last week against the Cowboys, when the Giants played Dallas, Tony Pollard rushed 13 times for 105, and Zeke for 15 for 73 and a touchdown. So 28 total carries for 180 yards. Herbert's going to get most of that work this week. He's a no-brainer. Go ahead, play him. Enjoy it.
Yeah, if you have a running back against the Giants, you play him this year.
Yep. Roderick Hughes coming in from YouTube wants to know pick 2 flex full PPR. Joshua Palmer, Reynolds, Penny, Dotson, Burks, and Njoku. All right, we got half a roster here. We got a pick 2 full PPR.
That's interesting.
Yeah, Sanchi, what do you think at first blush here?
I think with Keenan Allen out, you have to throw Palmer in.
Mm-hmm.
Just I think he should be one of them. Damn. I like the matchup for Penny this week. Dotson's been scoring. He didn't score last week.
2 out of 3 weeks. But when he didn't score last week, it was a total dud because the volume's just really not there for him.
If it was tight end premium, I'd say Njoku. But I'm assuming it's not tight end premium here. So I'm going to go Palmer and Penny for me.
Okay. George, where are you at?
Palmer's my shoo-in. That's clear cut. I think no matter what you do, you should play Palmer here. I'm scratching out Penny, Burks, and Njoku because I'm not playing a tight end over a running back or a receiver unless I absolutely have to. And in that scenario, he's probably going to play at my tight end spot. Bad practice, guys. Rule of thumb: tight ends score way less. Don't do it unless you absolutely have to. Even your studs score way less. I mean. With that said, I'm between Reynolds and Dotson, man. Reynolds, hear me out. Amon-Ra's out. Jared Goff looks good? Question mark? He looks good.
How much of that is Amon-Ra and how much of that is Goff? No Swift.
No
so
Swift,
offense is
no
going to be a little more. Yep.
A little bit more opportunity for Reynolds. It's rough. I think I'm taking Reynolds. Dotson has had nice value in the last couple of weeks. Even last week's dud was on.
Yeah, I was surprised when I pulled up his numbers. I'm showing 8 targets against Philly, but that is more than I remembered because he only caught 2 of them, and I don't think that's his fault. That was actually his highest targets count of the season so far. Go figure.
Yeah, I think I'm doing Palmer and Reynolds. I'm sticking there. That's a rough one.
That's why I like the Penny matchup too. Sorry to cut you off, Greg, but go ahead. I like the Penny matchup because Seattle's going to be in this game. I think Detroit's pretty broken. This might be the best matchup you have with Rashad Penny. And if he has a good game, you sell high. But I think this could be a good week for Penny. We both agree on Palmer, so Palmer's definitely one of them. But I agree with taking either one of the guys as the second choice in the Detroit.
So Rashad Penny, matchup. Double-digit rushes in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Detroit is a plus matchup for running backs as it is, especially now that we expect the Seahawks to kind of be playing with like a neutral to positive game script. I think that I would go Palmer and Penny here, just for his floor. I feel like he's the most guaranteed path to production. Don't think he has a huge upside though. So if you're chasing a lead, I'm probably throwing in Reynolds for upside, to be honest. But if it's a close game or you're projected to lead, go ahead and throw in Palmer and Penny, and they're not going to get you nothing. So definitely guaranteed production for both those 2 guys, guaranteed opportunities, and I like the matchups. Good luck.
So we narrowed it down to 3. Trust your gut on the second guy. Good luck.
Indeed. All right, we got the comments rolling in from YouTube here. J2 Nice says, need a flex. My options are James Robinson, Cordell Patterson, who's a little banged up, and James Conner. This is harder than we would have thought a few weeks ago.
Oh, man.
George?
I mean, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 me would be in shock at my answer. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm going CPAT.
Let's go.
He looks good. They're featuring him. Algier is been irrelevant, so to speak. Yeah, he doesn't really look like he's got the burst I'm looking for out there. CPAT can play as a wideout, as a running back. Had a great game last week. I think he was questionable, but he should be good to go. So just always monitor that, of course. But I'm going CPAT until Connor shows me something. And J-Rob, I'm sorry, the Eagles' D-line front seven is, I think it's the best in football right now. So I fade anybody up there.
Fair enough. Yeah, Patterson is questionable. He practiced on Friday. He's got the Browns. I mean, he's like a top 5 running back right now. He's top 10 in rushing attempts at the running back position, which is shocking because, coming into the season, we thought of Cordarrelle Patterson as the PPR guy who was going to sustain you with targets, being a converted wideout. But that's not really the case. He's got 7 targets total in 3 games, but he's running like a madman. And he's getting it done. I mean, he's been a stud in 2 out of 3 weeks. I have him in one league. I played him the 1 week where he stunk. I think a lot of people probably followed that pattern because it was, we were all kind of clenched going into week 1, not knowing what that split was going to look like. He came out and dominated, and we were like, oh, great, Cordarrelle Patterson's back. Put him in. He did nothing. We were like, oh, it was an optical illusion. Took him out. He went off again. I'm probably not betting against him for the rest of the season until I see a sustained pattern of either inefficiency or a change in workload there. Sanch, what do you think?
I think I'm going James Conner here, man. I know it hasn't been great. You took him early and you're disappointed. But I'm still trusting in this Cardinals offense. Panthers, not scared of the Panthers matchup at all, even though it seems like they've been beating up on the Cardinals the last few times they played, which is crazy to me. I can see the argument for Patterson. He looks amazing, but I still think I'm rolling with the guy I took early. It's still really early. I'm throwing James Conner in against the Panthers.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where I'm trying to separate myself from draft equity and not necessarily think of these guys in that order anymore. That being said, I mean, we'll talk a little more James Conner later. We have a mailbag question kind of about his rest of season value, but he's still up there in terms of expected fantasy points, which is an important metric. He's not necessarily cashing in on them, but he's getting the opportunities. Something's not clicking with that offense, and I think it'll get better once Hopkins comes back, but he's not coming back this week, so I'm still going Patterson in this question. All good options. I think Connor's probably the riskiest, but you do you, man.
James call a shot. I'll guarantee a James Conner touchdown this week.
There you go, folks. Put your money on James Conner touchdown, and if it doesn't hit, send the bill over to @SanchiValue on Twitter. You know where to find them. The Joker. Who to start for flex full PPR? Jeff Wilson Jr., Rashad Penny, who we just talked about a little bit, or Ramondre Stevenson, one of Sanch's favorites. A lot of factors at play here. Full PPR. Jeff Wilson Jr. has looked good in the role. Not necessarily Elijah Mitchell levels of good from last year, but he's serviceable. Rashad Penny, gave us a disappearing act last week, so potential floor there. Ramondre Stevenson, a lot of questions about that backfield in New England. Sanch, untangle it for us.
I'm scratching Jeff Wilson Jr. I don't want to play him. I don't know. I like Penny. I love Stevenson. With Brian Hoyer in a tough matchup. Green Bay has a good defense. I love Stevenson the rest of the year. But I'm saying this is the week for Penny, I think. Then you sell him high, and then you play Ramondre the rest of the year.
I like it. George?
I'm playing Stevenson for sure. Penny, Penny, I kind of spoke bad about him before. Oh, wait. This is just who to start? Just one? I'm playing Stevenson.
This week, yeah.
Full PPR. Yeah,
Wilson's got the Rams.
Yeah, I love Stevenson. I think he's a stud. I wasn't a believer. I try to fade Patriots running backs because they're the most volatile thing I've ever seen in fantasy. One day they can go for, what was his name? James Garay? But he had like 200 yards.
And had a monster game, yeah.
And then he was relegated to inactive day after the next game, something like that. So be careful there, but I love Stevenson there. After that,
Yeah,
though, Rashad Penny.
we're seeing an uptick in Stevenson's value the last few weeks. I mean, they have the Packers, which traditionally you would expect the Patriots to be trailing in that game, have to throw a lot to Stevenson. But the Packers offense this year does not look like recent history Packers offense. So that might be more of a neutral game script than people expect. Might be a Damian Harris day. I can't get past Penny's matchup against the Lions, who are already a bad rushing defense and are just missing so many key weapons on their offense. I would give the edge to Penny here. I love Jeff Wilson, I like that 49ers offense. Not against the Rams. That scares me this week. He could, I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be game scripted out, which is nice. Wilson, I think, will get the ball on the ground a lot when they're leading, and will get some work through the air when they're trailing. But there's a world where the Rams, it doesn't matter, and they just completely shut him down on both facets. I don't think that happens for Penny. So Penny's probably my safest bet here. Ramondre for upside. So again, it depends on your situation a little bit. Sanch, you landed on Penny, right?
Yeah, I'm on Penny for this week. You kind of sound like you're in Daft Punk right now. I think your Wi-Fi is cutting up. You kind of sound like a robot. Yeah, no, you're good now. It was just a little bit, but
I wish I was in Daft Punk, man.
Yeah, man. R.I.P. They're one of the best. Yeah, Rashad Penny for me this week, but Stevenson rest of season.
Yeah, I'll give the tiebreaker vote to Penny.
One thing about Penny, they just lost Travis Homer to the IR, rib injury. So there's a possibility for some sneaky PPR upside. I don't know if they've really got anyone else that's going to step in and take that role on. Not guaranteeing it. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but it's a possibility for sure.
If there's a week to play him, it's this week against the Lions.
Yeah, definitely.
There you have it, Joker. Good luck. Trey S. coming in off YouTube. Afternoon, gents. Full PPR. Choose two. Allen Robinson, Chris Olave, Kareem Hunt, or Devontae Smith. Also, do I roll out Russell Wilson one more time or go Cousins? A lot of important questions in this one. Sanchi, what do you make of it at first read here?
Well, we talked about how much I love Olave, but it scares me. A-Rob, hell no. Put him on the bench. It's Kareem Hunt and Devontae Smith for me in PPR. That one's fairly easy. As far as the quarterback question, that's a little tougher, but I'm sticking to my guns with Denver. I know it hasn't looked good at all, but I think this is the week they get right. And if not, at least you have Cousins rest of the season moving forward. But this is the week you got to play Russ against the Raiders, who've been getting shredded by QBs. If he can't get right against the Raiders, it's time for us all to hit the panic button on Denver. But I think this week you got to go Russ one more time. Give him a chance. Hopefully he can cook up more than a grilled cheese. Get you a nice surf and turf dinner. So Kareem Hunt, Devontae Smith, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, a lot of people had high hopes for him coming in this year with kind of the change in the offensive system. We thought it was going to be more of an air raid attack. His numbers so far look pretty traditionally Kirk Cousins-y. Got 19 points week 1, 12 points, 18 points. That's kind of what you thought you were getting out of Kirk Cousins. So he's a nice safe bet. I don't really think he has much of a ceiling against Saints in week 4. Tough passing defense. I'm probably rolling the dice for more upside out of Wilson. I agree with you. I think this is kind of where we draw the line and say, okay, he doesn't get it done week 4. Probably time to certainly consider benching him, maybe even consider cutting him. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I spent 60 fab. I spent 60 fab on Trevor Lawrence in the league. I took Russell Wilson, so
I picked him up as a free agent.
Kind of starting to panic a little bit, but it's still way too early. Small sample size. I know it's not pretty, but I'm trusting Denver this week. I think the points will come.
Well, look, I think we had a question. Yeah, somebody in the mailbag, and I'll just kind of splice that in here, asked if we're cutting Russ in one quarterback leagues. They said that they want to, but he's going to boom as soon as they do it. I think you're okay benching him. I think I'm a little still too hesitant to cut him this early unless you're in a really shallow bench league. There are leagues out there with 3-4 bench spots. You got to do what you got to do. But, I mean, name game, rest of season. Sanch, would you rather still have Russell Wilson over Trevor Lawrence at this point?
I'd rather
I know you're trying to hang on to them both, but if you had to pick. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, probably. They have to get right eventually or Hackett's going to be gone. Like, his ass is on the hot seat.
I think they'll figure it out, but I mean, can you hang in there till they do? You know?
Yeah, I'm not cutting Russell Wilson just yet. I'm not. Oh no, we lost him. Well, Sanchi value here. Oh, what do you feel about you keeping Russ, George?
In like 6 bench spots.
Connection here.
6 bench spots. I'm not afraid to cut him. I've never been afraid to play the stream game, so I would cut him in a 6 bench after this week, though. Like you guys said, I think this is a good test for him. His division's supposed to be a bunch of shootouts, so I would like to see those games start happening too before I go ahead and cut bait. But a few more weeks of this, and I think it's time to move on. Fantasy season's short, so.
Indeed.
I mean,
can you guys hear me okay?
Little
robotic.
Yeah,
I definitely cut out for a second. So let me quickly try and get an answer in before I get kicked out again here on the choose two. I'm in agreement on Devontae Smith and Kareem Hunt, just with the concerns about Chris Olave and his quarterback situation. Kareem Hunt is my guy this year, and I think we saw his floor last week, which was still fine. He's never going to totally goose you. I don't think he's going to get enough work, valuable touches around the goal line. He had 3 opportunities on the goal line last week, just didn't convert, but that's what you want to see. You want to see a guy who's still going to catch some passes, get some yards through the air, and still have a chance to break some big plays on the ground. So I still love Kareem Hunt. Devontae Smith, I don't think you can possibly sit after last week. I don't know how much of that you guys got or how much of it I sound like a robot.
There you go. You're back. You're back.
I'm back. Let's go.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Trey has one final question for us. Hopefully my internet holds out. Last one, full PPR. Start 2. Breece Hall, Allen Robinson, Damian Harris, Singletary, or Jerry Jeudy. Speaking of my guys. Sanch, I'll kick it over to you.
I want to talk about Jeudy right now. I love him. I still believe in the talent, but I want to see it. For me, I think this is the Breece Hall breakout game against the Steelers, man. I put a bet on him for an anytime touchdown. Got him in some DFS lineups. I think this is the week for Breece Hall. So he's going to be one of them. And then Singletary looks really good on that high-powered offense. I think he has to be your second guy there.
He did last week. I mean, he got, 11 targets? I don't know if we can expect that consistently moving forward, but it seems like every year, or at least every couple of weeks, they try to work Zach Moss back into the equation there, and they remember why they stopped doing it.
He sucks.
Terrible.
Georgia, are you in agreement on Breece and Singletary there?
I'm definitely going Breece. I'm between Singletary and Harris. You guys kind of convinced me earlier. Axel Hoyer kind of scares me. For those of you that don't know, Brian's actual name is Axel Edward Brian Hoyer. I'm shocked.
Why would you not go by Axel if you had the opportunity to do it?
It's a great name.
Twisted Metal.
He needs that, right? Like he needs a little bit of branding flair. Like Brian Hoyer, you look at that guy play football and he looks like a Brian Hoyer. But like if he came out and if he was Axel Hoyer, I feel like he would at least have gotten an extra starting contract at some point.
Axel plays well, he keeps the job. Brian plays well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go Damian Harris actually in Breece Hall. Singletary's had 2 dud games before his little explosion last week, so I'm a little bit nervous there. And I think Damian Harris is gonna see a ton of value, and with Brian Hoyer there, I think they're gonna look to run the ball more than they already do, which is a lot as is.
Sure.
Hey, Rob. Honestly, I'm going to be honest, guys. He's on my cut list. I have no interest in playing Allen Robinson. I know nobody wants to cut him, but let him fail on someone else's roster, and you get to laugh at it.
I'm done with that.
Yeah, he's a couple of TDs short of what he potentially could have had on the season. He had one called back on a really weird call in week 1. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the referees blew the play dead after it started because somebody upstairs saw a concussion concern after Robinson was already in the end zone. That was a weird one, not his fault. The second one was a wide open drop in the end zone, I think a week or 2 ago. That was his fault. But, could be having a different conversation about him right now if he had 12 more points on the season, but he doesn't. So,
yeah, I don't know. It's two target games. Was it 2 targets week 1? How many did he have?
That feels right. Week 1, I feel like and the second target was like a deep fade to the back of the end zone that didn't have a chance anyway.
Yeah, 2 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets. No, yeah, I'm out on Allen Robinson altogether. Judy scares me, but I would definitely continue to hold him just to see what happens with Russ. But I think I'm going Harrison, Brees Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I'm leading Singletary is because there's going to be so many points in that Ravens-Bills game. There should be. You know, we can't predict the future, but that one should be an exciting one, and I want a piece where I can get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a +1 to Singletary. I think that they're figuring some things out over there. He looked so good the end of last year that I really expected his momentum to continue into this year. It didn't out of the gate, but I mean, last week we saw shades of what made him magical last year, kind of towards the end of the year in the fantasy playoffs. So hopefully they recognize a good thing when they see it over there and lean on him. And Brees Hall, maybe it's his week, maybe it isn't. I said on the show last week that it's going to happen sooner than later for Brees.
It's the week.
I think it's solid in PPR. Either way,
sure.
He's been seeing a ton of value. I mean, you would think that Carter would be the one seeing a little bit more of the targets, but
we'll see what Zach Wilson will do, though. That's
the big concern for me is Zach Wilson, because we saw even last year that there was a significant boost in running back targets in the Jets' backfield when Wilson was out, and I kind of expect that to happen in reverse here when he comes back. So. Not really sure what the intended game plan is for the Jets offense this year. We haven't seen it yet, right? It's been all Joe Flacco, which is not what they rehearsed for in the offseason.
Please get the ball to Garrett Wilson, Zach. Please get the ball to Garrett Wilson.
I think that would be in his best interest as well.
I'm not even a Jets fan, but come on. That guy's a stud. Feed Garrett Wilson.
Good.
Yeah, so my final vote here for Trey on YouTube, I would go Singletary and Damian Harris personally. But I think that Brees Hall is an option that you can consider if you're feeling brave about Zach Wilson and what he means for that offense. I am not in that camp, but again, we'll give you our opinions and you take that and decide what's best for your situation. Good question. Thanks for writing in. Anybody else who wants to ask a question can do so for the next 18 minutes or so. Drop a comment wherever you're watching us. Trey says, appreciate it. Good luck this week. Good luck to you, sir. We appreciate you as well. Make sure you all subscribe if you're watching now, and pick up a phone, give us a call, 618-FANLINE. Our phone line is open if you want to join us on air and cut it up a little bit with us here. Timmy in Arizona says, Dubs to the moon? Is it Dubs? Dobbs? I've heard it both ways so far. Do we have like an official pronunciation? Dobbs?
I'm pretty sure it's Dobbs, all right. Yeah.
So he wants to know, Romeo Dobbs to the moon. What do you guys make of him? Timmy wants to know. He led the team with 8 targets versus a tough Tampa Bay defense last week. He caught all of them for 73 and 1 touchdown. That is a great way to earn Aaron Rodgers' trust. Sanch, what do you think of Dobbs the rest of the way?
I don't know if I'll necessarily say to the moon, but
that's a tall claim. That's a big crown to put on somebody's head.
But if he ends up being Rodgers' guy, it's definitely in the realm of possibility. Like, you want the guy that Rodgers trusts. I still don't know who it's going to be. It looked like it was Dobbs last week. We saw like the beat writers say like Dobbs going to be the one. Dobbs going to be the one.
He was the preseason hero, but we've seen probably more preseason storylines crash and burn in week 1 than we've seen them stick. I think the big exception this year so far has been Dameon Pierce, but other than that, I mean, look at the Bears offense. They look great in preseason. Not that I'm bitter or anything.
Shout out Darwin Thompson.
Shout out Darwin Thompson. Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, preseason is not the real season, and I guess my big question about the Packers, George, is do they need a featured wide receiver? I mean, Rodgers has traditionally operated with one, but I mean they have a core group of kind of mediocre pass catchers over there, plus Aaron Jones and a strong backfield. Do they need a wide receiver one to get like 30% of the target share?
I think that they would really benefit from having one guy step up and be their wide receiver one. I don't think Dobbs profiles as that true number one that will ever reach like the Devontae Adams or prime Jordy Nelson days. I think he profiles more of like your solid Randall Cobb he doesn't play the same, but just like his output. Or James Jones, those wide receiver 2 days. I don't see him ever stepping up as the alpha. He just doesn't have the athletic profile. I'm big on that. I do a lot of
So,
dynasty, and I follow these guys early. He didn't show it at the Senior Bowl.
so you're probably interested in Christian Watson then for the same reasons?
I like him more rest of season and for dynasty.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't rule out Dobbs, being the number one. Anything can happen for sure. So, I wouldn't cut bait just based on what I'm saying. I'm not saying to get rid of him, but I can't see him going to the moon. Plus, I think the Packers' days of airing it out, maybe they're not over, but this year they're over.
Yeah, you're playing both running backs this week in a game they should be up early in against Axel Hoyer. They're gonna pound the rock. I could see Dylan and
I can't
Aaron
get
Jones.
past that.
Dylan and Aaron Jones should both have solid games. I'm playing both.
Do you think when he signs footballs, he signs Brian or Axel?
I'm probably Brian because he's lame.
Do you think if I met him, I could get him to do Axel? If I can get an Axel Hoyer signed football, I will be displaying it in the back of this video feed every episode of Fantasy Fanline for the rest of my life.
So sign up to our Patreon. So we can get
help us afford an Axel Hoyer signed football. Look, Romeo Dobbs, I agree with you what you were saying, George, about his athletic profile. I think that best case scenario for him, he ends up being the Randall Cobb, the Christian Watson's Jordy Nelson. If we're going to kind of slot guys into past roles in that offense. That being said, Watson's not healthy yet. They gave him some designed kind of plays recently to get him open into space, Watson, but I don't think he's at a point where he's going to be beating defenders yet, probably sooner than later, because I don't think it was that serious of an injury in the preseason. All that being said, I think the dream of Allen Lazard being that guy is probably dead at this point. I mean, he caught a touchdown in each of the past 2 weeks, and I know Rodgers talked him up a little bit during the offseason, but he talked more about Dobbs, and Lazard is big. He's got that going for him, and also he's big, and he's huge, and he's very tall. So those are all, positive qualities for Allen Lazard.
And he's big. He's big.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point, Sanch. That's why we keep you around. But honestly, they have a really good defense on paper. They have a great run game, great two-headed backfield. So if anybody ends up being the to the moon guy this year, I think it's Watson. But it wasn't that long ago that Rodgers was supporting 2 top 10, top 15 guys. Mind you, Randall Cobb is still on the team, and he's not the Randall Cobb of that team anymore. So
he's not even old. I mean,
he's not even old. He was so young when he boomed that it just feels like he's been around forever. But so Tommy Donuts is asking if we answered his question yet. We did not yet, but I guess this is a good time to transition to some of our Instagram questions. You can follow us at Fantasy Fanline. We open up for some early morning questions before we come on and do the show, and we got one from Tommy today. He wanted to know Antonio Gibson or Noah Brown, half point. I probably should have told him we answered it already just to mess with him. That's what you get for calling in and asking a question about the Queen a couple of weeks ago. But George, who are you starting this week in half point? Honestly, I don't love either of these options. Do you give the edge to one or the other here?
I'm going Gibson. I think Michael Gallup's back this week. In which case, I need to see what happens with Noah Brown. I think Gallup comes in and at minimum takes away like 40% of the snaps that Noah Brown would have seen as the 2. This is at minimum. If he's fully healthy, he might take the entire role and kick Noah
he's
Brown
off
to
the
curb.
injury report for what it's worth.
Yeah,
not like he's questionable and he's playing. No, he's totally off the injury report, which is the only reason I don't like Noah Brown, because he's to this point wide receiver 29 on the season with a 20% target share and 26% of the Cowboys' air yards. That's not going to continue. I mean, he's 9th among wide receiver red zone targets, 5 receptions and 50 plus yards every week. I don't think he's going to disappear because he's got great chemistry with the backup quarterback over there, and Dak's not going to be back for at least another couple weeks. But he's a risky start this week, man, before you see how it shakes up with Gallup. Sanch, which way are you leaning here?
I'm going the opposite way. I'm going Noah Brown. He's had a really good floor so far. I know Gallup's coming back, but it might take a few weeks for him to get right. It's all a lot of the mental coming off that injury. Like, I don't think he's going to get a crazy snap count in his first week back. We've seen Cooper Rush have this chemistry with Noah Brown. I think in PPR he scored at least over 10 points every game with a 20 spot somewhere in there against the Bengals. and I'm just gonna keep riding the hot hand. Cooper Rush likes Noah Brown, and Gibson's production. You know, he looked all right week 1, and it's just gone downhill since. If you have another option, I would consider. But if this is like a coin flip, half point. We're talking half point. Yeah, I'll be the guy to say Noah Brown. I like what I see with Cooper Rush targeting him. It's not pretty, Tommy Donuts. This is not a pretty question, but you know, fantasy football is not
always, man. Sometimes you got to get down and dirty in the trenches and ask questions about Noah Brown in week 4. Look, first of all, Cooper Rush, also a pretty cool quarterback name. Would you guys prefer to be named Axel Hoyer or Cooper Rush? If we're talking about you in your personal life. Yeah, still Axel Hoyer.
Give me Axel over Cooper, but Rush is.
Give me Axel Rush.
Name.
Yeah, it's a 1A 1B for me. Oh, Axel Rush would be the best of both worlds.
That's my new wrestling name, bro.
Your new wrestling name?
Rush.
For all the matches that you've been wrestling.
I'm going to a bachelor party for my boy who actually wrestles, so maybe Axel Rush will make his debut in Atlantic City tonight.
All right. Well, patreon.com/fantasyfanline will go towards Axel Rush gear for Sanch's in-ring debut, and we will air that here on our YouTube channel. So I gave the reasons that I don't like Noah Brown, but I didn't give the reasons I don't like Gibson. And Sanch, I think you hit on it. Like, he came out looking like the guy that we hoped the Commanders would use him as. I mean, he's a former wide receiver. They are just determined to not use him as a receiving back. I mean, he came out and caught a bunch of passes week 1. And since then, he's been ceding a lot of the receiving work to J.D. McKissick, and it's just getting worse and worse, which is kind of the world that we expected. Brian Robinson coming back soon. I think they want him to be the guy when he's back. And on top of all that, Gibson has been inefficient even with the rushing volume that he's getting. Like his PFF metrics are not good. The O-line's metrics are even worse. Dallas is a pretty good running back matchup, but Washington could be trailing and just game script Gibson out. So I think there's a world where he disappears. I think that that's less likely for Noah Brown. So ultimately, I'm actually going to side with Sanch, and I'm going to play Noah Brown here because I think that he's got a safer floor, if I'm being honest.
This is not with confidence. Yeah? This is not with confidence. You're going to pivot?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with you guys and Noah Brown after thinking about what Smith just did to the Washington Commanders. He just went nuclear as a number 2 receiver. I see a scenario where Noah can come in and do that. It shouldn't be fully scripted out with Gallup back, but it is a possibility though. So I mean, ultimately, both guys are dud possibilities. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
so
that's a rough one.
Question.
This is the most nervous, unanimous vote we've ever had on the show. We're all aboard the Noah Brown train right now as the guy that
we're not
confident
at all. We are not confident at all in this one.
I feel worse about Gibson than about Brown, but I'm clenched pretty hard on both of those guys. Tommy Donuts.
Good luck.
Godspeed, brother. Joey Ruiz chiming in. He joined late as well. I'm playing a team who has Breece Hall starting this week. Is this his breakout week? Oh, you actually just missed us discussing this a little bit. Sanch thinks that it is. It's feeling pretty good. I like your chances this week, Joey. Just with Zach Wilson coming back, there's a chance that he doesn't throw the ball to running backs at all in this game, or maybe once or twice tops. And Breece is really making his money right now in the receiving game. George, how nervous should Joey be on a scale of 1 to 10 about going against Breece Hall this week?
I wouldn't be too nervous about going against him at all. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel bad for all my Jets fans' friends. It's the Jets. You're never going to scare me with a Jets player. In fact, I smile when I see them on the other side when I'm going against them. They're cursed. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's just the reality of the matter. So I wouldn't be too nervous. Plus, he's still splitting work with Michael Carter. So if they begin splitting work and they're not getting the receiving work to really hold that floor up, then actually you should be kind of happy, if anything.
Yeah, I'm with you there. If Carter was gone and it still wasn't Zach Wilson, I'd be pretty scared of facing Breece Hall this week against the Steelers. But those things aren't true. So
I'm feeling risky, man. Just like I guaranteed the Connor touchdown, I'm gonna go with a touchdown this week for Breece Hall too. It's coming. I just have a feeling.
At Sanchi Value on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a feeling. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm a human being, but like I just can't shake the gut feeling sometimes. And Pittsburgh. Zach Wilson coming back. They might lean on more carries. They might give the backs a lot of carries this week. if Zach Wilson comes out, I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me. It's not like the Steelers are going to jump out to a big lead. I mean, I just don't think that they have the offense to do that. So I don't know that Breece Hall is going to be game scripted out at all, which is a point in his favor. I just don't trust the efficiency of that offense under Zach Wilson.
He's been trending upwards. He's getting more and more work, and
Breece,
I just feel it. I'm feeling it.
Okay,
Breece the Beast.
2-1 vote. Sanchez on island on this one. I'm going to put up this comment from Tommy Donuts. He commented it like a few minutes ago, so I'm sure it was in reference to something, but now out of context.
Noah Brown versus Gibson.
Oh, right. Yeah. He says, can't polish a turd. For all of our podcast listeners, that's what's on our screen right now. You're missing out. Chime in on YouTube next time. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You will see these beautiful comments as we air them in real time. Let's get back to the mailbag here. We have just a few minutes left to get through some of these. Paul in California says, please, very polite, pick 2 in full PPR. Cordarrelle Patterson, Josh Jacobs, Dameon Pierce. George.
Starting with Patterson, like I mentioned before, because
for sure.
He's just been a beast.
It's all of us.
After that, I think I'm going Josh Jacobs. Just a better offense, better profile than Pierce. I don't know. I just feel safer about that. Pierce hasn't really done anything to warrant all the hype that he got over the preseason, and he boomed up draft boards. It was wild. I mean, I was getting the guy in late round 2 and early round 3 and rookie drafts, and all of a sudden he became a top 10 pick in rookie drafts. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe my eyes. But
look, man, preseason is the time of year when we don't have a lot of real things to talk about. So if something interesting starts coming up, it just catches fire. Sanch, do you agree here? Are you going Patterson Jacobs?
We're going Patterson Pierce. I think they really believe in kid Pierce in Houston, and he went from 11 rushes week 1 to 15 week 2, and got a nice 20 spot last week against the Bears, and he got into the end zone. I think they're going to continue to feed him the ball. Like as we said, there's nothing too special with Davis Mills in that offense. They really like this kid. He's looked really good from what I've watched of him. And I don't know, man. Josh Jacobs, I feel better about having Pearson, the rookie with the upside, over what you're getting out of Josh Jacobs. Definitely Cordarrelle Patterson. I think all 3 of us agree on that one. But for me, it's Patterson and Pierce, Paul.
+1 to Pierce for me. Jacobs, I feel like gets a lot of work in between the 20s, kind of those scoreless yards. I think he's got a tougher matchup against Denver this week than Pierce does against the Chargers. They're both not, great, but the Chargers at least have been a little more forgiving on the ground. Yeah, no Bosa. Like you said, Pierce's workload has been trending up, but also his production. I mean, his yards and his touchdowns have gone up each week. I mean, as much as he can go up from 0 to 1 touchdowns, but he's averaging 4 or more yards per carry in the last 2 games. So he looks good. And part of that might've been the Bears, but
they really like him.
Yeah. I think that he's the guy over there. Jacobs,
I don't think they feel that way. Yeah, I think he's gone. Jacobs is gone this year. They don't really like him. So
and the big thing over there is once they get at the goal line, they're throwing. They got Waller, they got Devontae Adams, some of the best, kind of red zone pass catchers. Mac Hollins, elite. Yeah. So Jacobs, if you really need a guaranteed, 12, 13 carries for 60 yards on the ground, you're probably going to get that out of Josh Jacobs. But if you're setting your goals a little higher, I like Pierce's upside. That's where I'm at.
Jacobs had some involvement in the pass game last week. I think that might happen again. I think he's their best option.
He was such a good pass catcher in college. He's another one like Gibson. I don't know why they don't want to use him that way, but they're there with him every day and we're not. So I assume they know something that we don't. I always try to check myself on that one. I'm like, why are they coaching this way instead of the way that I think they should? As I'm sitting here in my basement in New Jersey, sometimes you got to defer to the experts. Curtis in North Carolina says, if you had to redo the draft today, I love this question. Who is your 101? Let's start with that part of the question. I think it might be Saquon Barkley, and I'm going to ask Sanch if he agrees because I know he's a big Barkley guy.
In PPR, it's Cooper Kupp for me. So I love safety, but Barkley would be my 2.
PPR 3 wide receiver league right now, I think for sure it's Kupp. You could maybe make an argument for Diggs. Those two guys are at the top of the leaderboard right now. But in standard or half PPR, kind of 2 wide receiver, 2 running backs, I think it'd be hard to argue against Saquon Barkley right now. He's the running back 2 behind Chubb, who I don't necessarily trust to stay elite. And everyone around him and that company, kind of you look at them and you squint because it's like James Robinson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cordell Patterson. Like, is there anyone you trust in that group more than Barkley to stay top-level production moving forward, George?
He looks so good.
No, I would trust Barkley the most, but I would probably defer right back to Jonathan Taylor at my 101, honestly.
All right, he's running back 10 right now. You're not afraid?
No. I mean, for a guy that's having a down year to still be running back 10, I'm very happy there. I think he's built like a stud.
I mean, that's his floor, right? Like, as long as he stays healthy, he's not dropping outside that like top 10, top 12 guys. CMC's right around there.
We're being real. I think Taylor had a slow start last year too, if I'm correct. And then
he did, yeah.
Then he exploded.
Came out swinging late. Yep.
I would have really liked to have made the case for DeAndre Swift if he wasn't banged up, but Jamal Williams is just getting so much work. They're both top 7 running backs right now, Swift and Jamal Williams. You guys know that? Two Lions running backs are in the top 7 right now, which I never thought I'd see the day. Just imagine if more of that workload was condensed on the Swift. He'd be the unquestioned guy right now. Herbs is writing in. Gabe Davis hype train is dead. Not a question.
Well, that's all the time we have left for the show, everyone. Sign up on our Patreon. It's not dead. It sucks that he's banged up. Of course, my guys, Judy, Swift, and Gabe Davis, they're all hurt, banged up by week 3. Go figure. Fantasy football, gotta love it. I'm still really high on Swift. I'm actually, if you're in a good situation, and you should be happy the Lions are trying to, preserve his health for that home stretch. If you're 0-3, that sucks, man. But if you could pull out some wins with Swift on the bench, it's a good thing. We don't want him to go out there, re-aggravate, and miss the whole year. Swift's a killer. He's going to be fine down the stretch. Gabe Davis, he's on the field a lot, and Josh Allen is his quarterback. I'm not worried. The injury has me a little worried. If he's hurt, I really hope they don't play him again. It's still too early. I like the home stretch, the late push. Please don't play Gabe Davis if he's hurt.
Quick answers from both of you. The second half of this question: who is now in the first round that wasn't there during draft season? Sanch, who's moving up that board?
Barkley.
Saquon, yeah, easy answer.
Easy.
George,
Nick Chubb wasn't really there.
Nick Chubb.
He's kind of late second round, so I think he slides up and in.
Yeah.
Diggs. I like Diggs in the first, but he was kind of.
I've seen him go in the first. I've seen Barkley go in the first too, but we're doing average ADP here, and usually those guys were like early second.
For sure.
Yeah, I think Diggs would have been my answer as well, and he was hanging around like that 1-2 turn. I think he's a no-brainer first round pick.
What about Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek did not get the respect that he probably deserved.
He got disrespected.
Next year's, if this keeps up, next year's first round is going to be so wide receiver heavy because like the pendulum swings every year, but this one's going to be ridiculous just based on the way that all the elite running backs are starting and the wide receivers are coming out swinging. Next year it's going to be like a 9-3 ratio, maybe 8-4.
AJ Brown had to shout out an eagle.
AJ Brown, it could enter that conversation. Devontae Adams, depending on how it goes. Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll see how the rest of his year goes. It's the year of the receiver.
Really he looks really good.
Sucks nobody's happier than George Cruz.
Finally.
All right, we're a little over time. We're going to just jump through a couple of these last questions here before we wrap it up. Coming in from Herbs91 on Instagram, we'll answer this question even though he just defiled Gabe Davis on our show. Who are some buy low trade candidates along with sell high? Sanch, who you looking at here?
I think I'm selling high on Chubb, as you said. I don't know how much longer he's going. I know he's a beast. I know he looks great. That's tough, man.
I will say he's getting a bigger piece of that pie than I expected this year. The run game pie. Yeah.
For sure.
Does that change with Watson coming back, when playoffs come around? That's my only concern there. That's why I'd sell too. That's why I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I'd probably try to get a huge haul for Nick Chubb right now. Buy low. I'm still gonna ride the ETN train. Everyone's counting him out. We're gonna see this week in the negative game script. I think Travis Etienne's still gonna be a great RB2 in PPR leagues. Call me crazy. I know all these Robinson owners, they don't like me very much, but whatever.
James Robinson himself, I've heard, is not a fan of yours.
Can
he
we
totally listens to the show.
Can we buy Justin Jefferson low right now? Probably not.
I think he's one of those guys whose draft capital was so high that he's probably untouchable. And people, I mean, if he doesn't recover, I think people will just be happy to go down with the ship and be like, well, got to write off this year because my first round pick busted. But he's not.
I've seen people panic. I've seen people panicking and trading him already all over Reddit or where I check my info, and I'm like, yeah, I had to dish Jefferson. I'm like, yeah, I would have took him. I wish you were in my league.
Listeners, if you can get him, do that.
Yeah, please do.
Jamar Chase, same conversation.
Jamar Chase, buy low. T. Higgins looks really good though.
He does look good.
I love T.
Yeah, they're sick.
So with buy low guys, you need to look at situations that are expected to change. There has to be a pathway. Like, it's hard to look at a guy like an Austin Eckler and be like, well, he was drafted really high and he's a really good player, so sooner or later, he'll start hitting, because there's really nothing that's going to change around him, I don't think. I'm looking more at the name I wrote down was Leonard Fournette, just because that offense is missing so many pieces that they're going to get back. They're getting Chris Godwin, Julio Jones eventually. Mike Evans is unsuspended this week. So, I mean, Fournette's getting a 91% snap share and 100% of the running back opportunities. He totaled 17 touches last week. Like, if he keeps doing that in a Tom Brady offense that gets pass catchers back, the usage is great. The efficiency and the touchdowns, I think, are going to come when the offense gets healthier. So he's a guy that I'm looking to get my hands on right now. And maybe Keenan Allen. I mean, he's been out of sight, out of mind, but he was leading the Chargers in targets in week 1 before that injury. I think the offense needs him. And if anything's going to change in that offense to open things up for Eckler, Allen coming back might do it. And I'm selling Chase Edmonds. 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks on just really bare bones usage, which is still in the process of declining somehow. He's got 11 carries and 4 targets combined in the last 2 weeks. I mean, year to date, Raheem Mostert has doubled his carries. He's surviving on touchdowns right now, and if you can get one over on somebody who maybe just looks at the total fantasy scoring, I don't think it's sustainable. Get rid of him while you can. George, who did you write down for this question?
It's fun. I just sold Chase Edmonds for Darnell Mooney in a 14-team dynasty league. So
congratulations, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I definitely want to get rid of Edmonds. I'm taking Mooney in a dynasty. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm buying like James Conner. If you can get your hands on Eckler, convince the guy or gal there. Maybe Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a buy low candidate. He hasn't looked too good.
For sure. That's a good one.
But that's another one there. Like, I'm not really sure what's going to change in that situation, other than just he's too good to not be involved in that offense. Hopefully they figure it out.
My sell high, you guys mentioned him a few times, James Robinson. I mean, the other day I was offered James Robinson for my Joe Mixon, and I almost fell out of my seat. I didn't realize James Robinson was RB3.
Value that high, right?
Yeah, I would sell him in a heartbeat. I wouldn't look back. I'd thank the fantasy gods that I got a haul on him after he tore his Achilles. I think Cam Akers is a good buy low too. If you're looking for some running back help, he's that pendulum has shifted back to him, and I think that offense will look better day by day.
So it would seem, but you never really know in that backfield. James Robinson is an interesting one. I'm not looking to sell him for the sake of selling him, but if someone wants to pay me, top 10 running back price, I'm taking it. Because either way, either he slips out of that range and you get a steal, or he stays up there and you cash in at fair market value. But I think it's more likely than not that he ends up more as like a top 15 kind of guy, because I do expect them to play with the lead more often than we were expecting them to this year, Jacksonville. So there's going to be a lot of James Robinson games, but if I can cash out kind of at top value right now, I'm doing it. If somebody wants to give me Joe Mixon for James Robinson, I'm doing it in a heartbeat.
Right.
Well, I guess I should cancel my Ramondre Stevenson for Eckler trade I was about to send you, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, you can try. I'll probably screenshot it and put it on our Twitter and be like, "Look at this jerk." Couple of late questions coming in here. Val's the GOAT on YouTube wants to know if they should trade Hopkins and Dameon Pierce for Godwin and Jeff Wilson. This is an interesting one.
That's a nice trade. I like Pierce on the Hopkins side. I think I like Godwin on the other side, but you know, it's DeAndre Hopkins. He should come back, and he's coming back in a couple weeks. Should be strong. I think I'm gonna hold put with Hopkins and Pierce.
Well, the question you really need to ask yourself is the Cardinals' offense broken because it's missing Hopkins right now, and is he going to fix it when he comes back and be the Hopkins of old? George, where do you land on that?
Saw that last year. Kyler struggled without him.
Mm-hmm.
This question's rough. I think because I can more easily find wideouts on the waiver, I'd stick to Pierce side, Pierce and Hopkins. Plus, Jeff Wilson's days will be over sometime early November when Elijah Mitchell comes back. Yeah, I think I'm going Hopkins.
Mitchell is not out for the year. So Hopkins and Pierce to me feels like the big picture play. So this depends a little bit on your record. Val's the GOAT. If you want to let us know, where you're sitting right now. If you're in a good position to kind of hold a guy like Hopkins who's not going to be relevant still for another few weeks, I think ultimately he's going to be a league winner. I agree with you, Sanj. I think that he's going to open up that offense when he comes back. But if you need production sooner than later, if you're sitting 1-2, 0-3 right now, I'm probably taking Godwin and Jeff Wilson because I don't think it's that big of a decline in value. And I think Wilson has every opportunity to be as good as, if not better than Pierce for the stretch that he is the starting running back in San Francisco. Val's is chiming in saying I'm 2-1, so I'm probably sitting tight then with Hopkins and Pierce in that situation. But I do think it's a really fair value offer. George, you have anything you want to add? You look like something just crossed your mind.
Godwin scares me. I just don't. So I've been on this. I fade ACLs. It's non-negotiable. And
like you fade the body part, or you fade guys who are dealing with ACL problems.
Any ACL injury, you don't play for my team the next year.
Right.
And he's already seen the injury that follows up with ACL returns. A lot of people write them off, but if you go ahead and look through all the guys that have torn their ACLs recently, it hasn't been great. And just for that reason, the hamstring injury scares me. The offense looks dysfunctional. I think I'm out on. I love Godwin. I have a ton of shares of him in Dynasty. I bought him everywhere I could, but that injury coming back scares me. He got it pretty late in the year. I'm sticking with Pierce and Hopkins for sure.
All right. Well, I'm not.
Can I rapid fire these last two questions before we wrap it up? Because they're kind of easy for me.
The mailbag questions, the YouTube questions.
The YouTube questions.
Let's do it. Raw G126 wants to know, hey guys, need an RB and a flex in PPR. Hunt, Pierce, Samuel, Wilson, or Bateman. I almost said Batman. Ugh. It has been a long hour. Sanch, go ahead.
Kareem Hunt and Dameon Pierce for me. But Bateman's interesting too. If you want to get a receiver in there and take out Hunter Pierce, I would throw Bateman in. But if this was my team, I'm probably playing Kareem Hunt and Pierce.
No love for Curtis Samuel, who's been looking like the wide receiver one on his team.
It's hard to play a Commanders player for me. I don't know. It's probably a great play, but I just PPR. I love Kareem Hunt. I want him in. No matter, he could go off any week. I talked about how they love Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're feeling iffy on Pierce, I might rock Hunt and Bateman.
Yeah, I'm scratching Wilson here just because of the matchup and because these other options are all good. I'm not playing anyone from a tier under Wilson over him because of the matchup, but I think that these guys are all kind of in that same tier, so that's going to be a tiebreaker for me. Hunt, I think, is a great option here. Pierce is a great option. Samuel, I would consider. Bateman, I'm probably out on just because of the volume. So it's between the first three for me. George, who are you looking at here?
Hunt, Bateman. Bateman because of the matchup this week. It's the Buffalo this week.
Yep, that's going to be a real high over-under. A lot of points.
Yeah, so I think they're going to have to really push to pass the ball. They're not going to be able to do it all on their legs. And then I like Hunt. I don't know. He's been solid ever since he came into the league. Pierce, I already had my reservations. Jeff Wilson, there's no way I'm playing him against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Samuel, I just, I can't believe it. No, I won't believe it.
Still 3 weeks in. I mean, I get it. It's hard with Terry McLaurin also on that team. Like Bateman's not really a PPR wide receiver for me. I don't think that he gives you that positional advantage that he maybe would have if he was a higher target volume guy. For the running back, I'm slotting in Kareem Hunt. For flex, I'm personally going Curtis Samuel because I believe in the workload, but I wouldn't fault you for going Pierce instead. But he's not really a pass catching guy, so maybe Hunt and then flip a coin between Samuel and Bateman. I think that they're both good options. Bateman, like I said, I'm a little afraid of the target volume, but maybe not in this matchup. So great, probably a much better ceiling than Curtis Samuel. All good options. Nick Sullivan, should I trade James Conner and Brandon Cooks for Saquon Barkley?
Yes.
Sanch,
Next
yes.
question.
George, yes. Greg, yes. Unanimous yeses. Nick, if you have that offer, go get it done before we end the show. Yeah, and comment and let us know that it's done so we know you're safe. Val's, Marquise Brown, and Bateman/Gabe Davis for Waddle. Is that good? So this is a trade offer. I think.
No. I don't want Waddle, especially with Teddy Bridgewater being the guy moving forward. He's gonna go towards Ty Hill. We just lost George.
He hated that offer so much that he just quit the show.
Yeah, I'm sticking Hollywood Brown, Bateman, and Gabe Davis. Those are 3 great receivers to have. I'm not targeting Waddle. He's banged up. He's playing through pain. He doesn't look right. He just lost the guy who was making him good. Well, obviously he's good. It's Jalen Waddle. He's a stud, but Bridgewater, I don't think he's not gonna support Ty Hill and Waddle like Tua. Prayers up for Tua, by the way. That's a whole other discussion. Shame on you, Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that was brutal.
About that.
So Val's, just knowing that you're 2-1 right now, Waddle again is probably the long-term stud in this deal. Marquise Brown's value is going to take a hit once Hopkins comes back. Bateman and Gabe Davis, who knows? There's a slash there, so I assume it's maybe one or the other. If it's Marquise Brown and just Bateman or Davis, and you have a winning record right now, I might prefer the Waddle side because I think that the league winning potential is real in that offense with Waddle, assuming that Tua comes back. If you have to make that decision before you know about Tua, then I'm probably staying away. If it's Teddy Bridgewater for an extended period of time, even with a 2-1 record, I don't. Oh, he says he's 1-2 in that league. In that case, for sure, I'm sticking with the Brown side of that deal. But it's a fair offer, for sure.
It's definitely a good trade. Yeah, I don't know how long Tua is going to be out for. If they say he'll be back in 2 weeks, Waddle's great, but he's banged up himself. As we saw it on the field on Thursday, he's not looking right. Ty Hill's the guy. He's the guy in that offense. He's going to continue to be, even with Teddy Bridgewater. Check down Teddy. I'm not worried about Ty Hill.
What's that? Oh, the check down helps Waddle. Yeah, well, he's one of those guys who can catch it 2 yards from the line of scrimmage and take it to the house.
You have Tyreek Hill, you get him the ball. I don't care who is a quarterback.
Fair enough.
That's my personal opinion.
Well, we are over time, and Sanj, I know you have somewhere to be, so I'm going to let you guys go for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching, and tomorrow this will be on podcast platforms. So if you're listening on podcast, try to join us live sometime, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, every Saturday the rest of the year. George, thank you so much for hopping in and doing this with us, man. You have any final parting words here, anything you want to plug, or just go Eagles?
Yeah.
Definitely go Philly. I think this is our year. It feels beautiful. 3-0.
Dude,
you guys look really good. They do.
I think it's your year too, man. Like it makes me a little nervous to say it,
and it feels good.
It's scary, man. My wife's family is all from South Jersey, the Philly area, so they're all pumped right now. I'm hearing it every week, and I'm happy for all of you. You guys deserve it. Raji coming in. Thanks all. Great insight. You're very welcome, Raji. Hope you join us again next week. Subscribe to our channel. Tell a friend. Bring a friend. Comment. Give us a call next week. We're here every Saturday the rest of the season to help you. George, thank you again, man. Final note, visit our Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyfanline if you want to support us. Sanch, any parting words?
If we get enough Patreon subscribers, we might do an Axel Hoyer raffle or a giveaway. So
that's the dream, brother. For George Cruz, for Sanchi Value, for Axel Hoyer, I'm Greg Scalera. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye, everybody.